Welcome to ISO 22301 implementation step by step with templates. In the next 15 minutes, we'll walk through how to build a business continuity management system from the ground up. You'll see how to assess risks, analyze business impacts, develop continuity strategies, and build plans that actually work when a crisis hits. This overview covers the key steps from the full course. Let's get started. Let's begin with the foundations. ISO 22301 provides a structured approach to ensuring your organization can continue operating during and after a disruption. Before diving into implementation, here are the core concepts that define business continuity management. Business continuity is the capability to continue delivering products and services at acceptable predefined levels during a disruption. It's not about preventing every incident. It's about being prepared to respond, recover, and restore operations when something goes wrong. A business continuity management system, or BCMS, is the management framework that makes continuity systematic. It establishes processes for identifying threats, building response capabilities, and continually improving organizational resilience. Business impact analysis, or BIA, is the process where you identify which activities are critical, assess what happens if they stop, and determine how quickly each must be restored. The BIA drives everything else in your continuity planning. The PDCA cycle stands for Plan, Do, Check, Act. ISO 22301 uses this cycle to structure how you build, operate, evaluate, and improve your business continuity management system over time. Here is how the PDCA cycle maps to a business continuity implementation. In the plan phase, you define the scope of your BCMS, write the business continuity policy, conduct risk assessments and business impact analysis, and design your continuity strategy. This is where you lay the foundation for everything that follows. In the do phase, you implement your plans. You develop business continuity plans, crisis management procedures, incident response and disaster recovery plans, and then exercise and train your people so the plans actually work under pressure. In the check phase, you evaluate how the system is performing. You conduct internal audits, run management reviews, and analyze metrics to identify gaps, weaknesses, and opportunities for improvement. In the act phase, you take corrective actions based on audit findings, management reviews, and lessons learned from exercises or real incidents. This is what drives continual improvement and keeps your BCMS effective over time. Now let's move into planning. This is where you define what your BCMS covers, write the policy, assess risks, and analyze business impacts. Setting up a BCMS starts with 3 critical steps that define its boundaries and direction. First, you need management commitment. Without top management support and a clear assignment of leadership accountability, the BCMS will lack authority, resources, and organizational buy-in. The course shows how to build the business case and secure that commitment. Next, define the scope of your BCMS. You need to decide which locations, business activities, products, and services fall within the system. The scope determines what you protect and what you plan for. Then write the business continuity policy. This is the high-level document that sets the direction, principles, and commitment for business continuity. It must align with the organization's strategic objectives and be communicated to all relevant parties. Finally, identify the requirements from interested parties, including customers, regulators, insurers, and supply chain partners. Understanding their expectations shapes how your BCMS is designed and what evidence you need to maintain. Risk assessment in ISO 22301 follows a structured methodology. Here are the key steps and what each delivers. Step 1 is identifying and prioritizing your critical assets. These include information systems, people, facilities, and equipment. The output is an asset register ranked by how important each asset is to your priority activities. Step 2 is identifying threats and vulnerabilities for each critical asset, along with the controls already in place. This gives you a risk scenario inventory that maps what could go wrong and where your gaps are. Step 3 is calculating risk by assessing the likelihood and impact of each scenario. You use a risk matrix to score and compare risks, so you can prioritize where to invest in treatment. Step 4 is risk treatment. For each unacceptable risk, you choose a treatment option: avoid, reduce, share, or accept, and assign an owner, action, and deadline. The output is a risk treatment plan that drives your implementation. When analyzing business impacts, you can use qualitative or quantitative methods. Each has distinct strengths. Qualitative impact assessment uses descriptive scales like low, medium, high, and critical. It is faster to execute, easier for stakeholders to understand, and works well for initial assessments in smaller organizations. It relies on expert judgment and structured interviews rather than financial data. Quantitative impact assessment uses measurable data such as revenue loss per hour, regulatory penalties, and recovery costs. It provides more precise results and supports cost-benefit analysis for recovery investments. It works best in mature organizations with readily available financial data. With risks assessed and impacts analyzed, the next step is building your actual response capabilities, strategies, resource plans, and the plans your teams will execute during a disruption. Your business continuity strategy must address 7 resource categories. Each one must have a recovery approach and fallback options. People are the most critical resource. Your strategy needs succession plans for key roles, cross-training to cover absences, emergency contact lists, and welfare arrangements for staff affected by a disruption. Information and data must be protected through regular backups, off-site or cloud copies, and tested recovery procedures. You need to know your recovery point objective, how much data you can afford to lose, and your recovery time objective, how fast you need systems back. Buildings and utilities need fallback options. This includes alternate work locations, backup power supplies, and access control arrangements so your teams can relocate and continue operating if a primary site becomes unavailable. IT systems and equipment require redundancy planning. This covers cloud failover, spare hardware, vendor support agreements, and documented procedures for switching to backup systems during an outage. Partners and suppliers are part of your continuity chain. You need service-level agreements with continuity clauses, pre-identified alternative suppliers, and communication protocols so critical supply chains remain functional during a disruption. The course teaches you to build 5 interconnected plans that cover the full life cycle of a disruption. The crisis management plan is activated first. It handles strategic decision-making, internal and external communications, and leadership coordination. This plan ensures the right people are making decisions and stakeholders are informed. The incident response plan deals with immediate containment. It covers safety procedures, damage assessment, escalation criteria, and the initial actions needed to stabilize the situation before recovery begins. The business continuity plan focuses on maintaining critical operations at minimum acceptable levels. It details workarounds, alternate processes, and resource reallocation to keep priority activities running during the disruption. The disaster recovery plan targets IT systems, data, and infrastructure. It includes recovery procedures, system priorities, and technical steps to restore technology services according to the recovery time and recovery point objectives defined in your BIA. Plans are only as good as the testing behind them. ISO 22301 requires a structured exercise program. Tabletop exercises are discussion-based sessions where key decision-makers walk through a disruption scenario. They are low-cost, easy to organize, and effective for testing communication flows and decision-making processes. Simulation exercises are more realistic drills that test whether operational procedures work in practice. They may involve relocating to an alternate site, activating backup systems, or running operations with reduced staff. Full-scale tests involve end-to-end activation of one or more plans with real resource mobilization. They are the most demanding but provide the strongest evidence that your continuity arrangements actually work under pressure. Every exercise must end with a post-exercise review. This captures lessons learned, identifies gaps, and feeds improvements back into the plans. Without this step, exercises become compliance theater rather than genuine preparedness activities. The final phase of the PDCA cycle is about evaluating your BCMS performance and driving continual improvement through audits, management reviews, and corrective actions. The internal audit follows a structured process to verify your BCMS meets ISO 22301 requirements. The audit begins with a document review. The auditor examines your policies, plans, business impact analysis, and risk assessments to check completeness and alignment with ISO 22301 requirements. The output is a gap analysis report highlighting areas that need attention. Next is audit planning. The audit scope is defined, interviews are scheduled, and a detailed checklist is prepared based on the ISO 22301 clauses. The course provides a ready-to-use audit checklist template. The main audit involves interviewing staff, observing processes, and examining evidence. The auditor checks whether the BCMS is implemented as documented and whether it is effective in practice. Findings are recorded with supporting evidence. Finally, findings are classified as major nonconformities, minor nonconformities, or opportunities for improvement. The internal audit report is presented to management with recommended corrective actions and timelines. Management review is where leadership evaluates the BCMS and decides on strategic improvements. The management review takes input from audit findings, exercise results, and any real incident reports. This gives leadership a comprehensive view of how the BCMS is performing and where it fell short. Leadership evaluates whether the BCMS has adequate resources, whether the risk and threat landscape has changed, and whether the current continuity strategies remain appropriate for the organization's risk profile. Based on the review inputs, management decides on corrective actions, allocates resources to address gaps, and sets improvement priorities for the next cycle. These decisions are documented and tracked to completion. Continual improvement means feeding lessons learned back into updated plans, new training programs, and revised exercise scenarios. The goal is a BCMS that gets stronger with every cycle, not one that stays static after initial implementation. The course uses CloudCom, a fictional cloud services provider, as a practical case study to demonstrate how each step of the BCMS implementation works in a real-world context. CloudCom illustrates how a real organization applies every step of ISO 22301. CloudCom defines its BCMS scope to cover all data center operations, customer-facing cloud services, and critical support functions including IT operations, customer support, and billing. This gives you a concrete example of how to write a practical scope statement. Through the business impact analysis, CloudCom identifies its customer portals and data replication services as maximum priority activities with a recovery time objective of 4 hours. The course walks through the full BIA calculation using CloudCom's real service catalog. CloudCom's continuity strategy relies on geographic redundancy across data centers, automated failover for critical services, and strengthened vendor service level agreements. You'll see how to match strategy choices to BIA priorities and resource constraints. CloudCom runs annual full failover tests, quarterly tabletop exercises with leadership, and structured post-incident reviews after every real disruption. The course provides the exercise templates and evaluation forms used throughout the case study. Let's close with the most important lessons from the ISO 22301 course. First, business continuity starts with understanding what matters most. The business impact analysis is the single most important activity in your BCMS. It determines your recovery priorities, resource investments, and plan structures. Get the BIA right, and everything else follows logically. Second, plans must be exercised and updated regularly. An untested plan creates a dangerous false sense of security. The course shows you how to design a practical exercise program that builds confidence and reveals gaps before a real crisis does. Third, the PDCA cycle transforms business continuity from a one-time project into a living management system. Through audits, management reviews, and corrective actions, your BCMS improves with every cycle and adapts to changing threats. And fourth, ISO 22301 provides a certifiable, internationally recognized framework. Certification demonstrates to customers, regulators, and partners that your organization takes resilience seriously. In the full course, you'll get the templates, checklists, and step-by-step guidance to achieve it. That wraps up our overview of ISO 22301. In the full Udemy course, you'll get detailed lessons on every step we covered today, plus downloadable templates for your BIA, risk assessment, business continuity plans, audit checklists, and more. Click the link below or scan the QR code to enroll and start building your BCMS today. Thank you for watching. If this overview was useful, subscribe for more IT governance, risk, and compliance content. See you in the next video.